Josie Duggar pregnancy reveal. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. On a peaceful Sunday morning in Springdale, Arkansas, the Duggar family home was already filled with quiet movement long before the sun pushed its first warm light through the kitchen windows. Michelle Duggar stood by the stove humming softly as she stirred a pot of oatmeal. Jim Bob shuffled papers at the dining table, trying to organize the schedule for the week. Something he swore he would learn to enjoy one day. For most of the family, it felt like a normal Sunday. But for 23-year-old Josie Duggar, the youngest daughter in the famous Duggar clan, this particular morning carried a secret she had been holding tightly to her heart for weeks. A secret that was about to change her life forever. A secret that would rewrite her future. A secret that she knew would make both her parents cry with joy. Josie was pregnant, and today she would finally tell them. A morning filled with nerves. Josie stood in front of her bedroom mirror for the 100th time, brushing her long hair again though it was already perfect. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked at her reflection. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind. Morning sickness, late-night cravings, and the rush of emotion that came with knowing a tiny life was already growing inside her. Her husband, Caleb Parker, a gentle, soft-spoken EMT from Missouri, whom she had married just 9 months earlier, walked into the room with 2 mugs of warm mint tea. "You okay?" he asked, touching her arm. "You've been pacing like you're about to meet the president." Josie let out a nervous laugh. "I'm about to tell Mom and Dad their baby girl is having a baby. That's huge." Caleb handed her the tea and sat beside her on the edge of the bed. "They're going to be thrilled," he whispered. "Your mom will cry. Your dad will probably call the entire family within 5 minutes." "That's what I'm scared of," Josie groaned, burying her face in her hands. The Duggar family never kept news small. Even the tiniest announcement became a family-wide celebration. And here she was, about to reveal something incredibly personal and precious, her very first pregnancy. Today wouldn't be simple. Today would be unforgettable, flashbacks of her childhood. As Josie sipped her tea, memories of her early years fluttered through her mind. She had been born prematurely at 25 weeks, weighing only 1 pound and 6 ounces. Her parents had prayed around her incubator day and night, never knowing whether she would survive. The world watched her tiny life unfold on television as the family begged for her safety, and miracle after miracle, Josie grew. She proved every doctor wrong. She developed into a lively, intelligent young woman with a quiet strength that came from fighting for her life from the very beginning. Now she was about to bring a child into the world, a child that carried her miracle story, a child that carried her faith, a child she already loved more than anything. And no matter what happens today, Josie whispered to herself, this is our blessing. Caleb's excited anticipation. Caleb had known about the pregnancy since the moment the test showed a faint pink line. He had held Josie as she cried, happy tears and anxious tears all at once. He had promised he would be her rock through every moment. Today, he wanted to stand proudly by her side as they told her parents. He reached for a small white box on the dresser. Inside was a baby onesie that said Baby Parker arriving soon. Josie smiled shyly. "I still can't believe this is happening." Caleb kissed her forehead gently. "You're going to be an amazing mom." Arriving at the Duggar home, around noon, Josie and Caleb drove to the big Duggar house. They could already hear the laughter and chatter from outside, the classic Duggar chaos. Kids running, teenagers talking, Michelle giving gentle instructions, Jim Bob joking loudly. Josie felt her nerves tightening again. Inside, Michelle spotted her immediately. "There's my girl." Michelle rushed over and wrapped Josie in a tight, warm hug. "We've missed you this week." Jim Bob came in right after, patting Caleb on the back. "Hey, son-in-law, you look extra cheerful today." Josie exchanged a quick glance with Caleb. He smirked, trying not to laugh. If only they knew, a special family gathering after lunch. Josie cleared her throat and said, "Mom, Dad, Caleb, and I have something we want to tell you. Something important." Jim Bob instantly looked intrigued, while Michelle's eyebrows lifted with curiosity. "Should we gather everyone?" Michelle asked. "No," Josie said quickly. "Just you two." First, They sat together in the cozy living room, sunlight pouring in through the large windows. Michelle's hands folded neatly on her lap. Jim Bob leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. Josie's heart raced. Caleb gently squeezed her hand. "Go on," he whispered. Josie took a deep breath. "Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant." Silence. Then Michelle's hands flew to her mouth as tears immediately filled her eyes. Jim Bob froze for a split second and then broke into the biggest smile Josie had ever seen on his face. "Oh, honey," Michelle cried, throwing her arms around her daughter. "Praise the Lord." "Oh, Josie, this is wonderful news." Jim Bob hugged Caleb tightly. "Congratulations, son. You two are going to be amazing parents." The room filled with tears, laughter, and overwhelming love. It was everything Josie had hoped it would be. Michelle's emotional reaction. Michelle's tears wouldn't stop. She kept cupping Josie's cheeks, brushing her hair, kissing her forehead. "My miracle baby, having her own baby," she whispered. "God is so good." She looked at the ceiling like she was saying a silent prayer. Jim Bob took Michelle's hand and squeezed it. "We've always known Josie would grow into a strong woman. But this is something truly special." Michelle nodded. "You fought so hard to live, Josie. And now your little one will carry that strength, too." Josie wiped her own tears. "Mom, I was scared to tell you." Michelle shook her head gently. "Never be scared to bring us joy," showing the baby onesie. Caleb opened the white box and handed it to Jim Bob and Michelle. Inside lay the tiny onesie. Michelle gasped loudly. "Oh my goodness. This is precious." Jim Bob burst out laughing. "Baby Parker that has a nice ring to it." Michelle hugged the onesie to her chest like she was holding the baby already. "Can we announce it to the family?" she asked eagerly. Josie smiled. "Yes, Mom. We're ready." The family celebration begins. Jim Bob was out of the room before Josie finished speaking. "Everybody gather in the living room," he shouted through the halls. And just like that, dozens of Duggar family members poured in: children, teenagers, adults, grandkids, in-laws. It felt like the entire house shook. Once everyone was seated, Jim Bob took center stage like a host of a live show. "Family," he announced proudly, "we have some wonderful news to share." All eyes landed on Josie and Caleb. Josie felt her face turning red. Caleb placed his arm around her. Michelle stepped forward, tears already streaming. "Josie is expecting." The room exploded with gasps, cheers, shouts of joy. Little kids screamed. Older siblings rushed to their feet. Jessa hugged Josie first. "I knew it. I told Ben you've been glowing." Jill wiped tears from her eyes. "Baby sister mama. This is beautiful." Jinger clapped happily. "This calls for a celebration." Joanna held Josie tightly. "I am so excited for you." Jedediah and Jeremiah high-fived Caleb. Anna Duggar hugged Josie with maternal warmth. "You're going to be an amazing mother." Even the youngest cousins seemed thrilled, running around yelling, "A new baby is coming." The atmosphere was electric and filled with love. Josie's big surprise, the ultrasound photo. Once everyone settled down again, Josie had one more surprise. She pulled out a small envelope. Before anyone asked, she said with a shy smile, "Yes, we already had our first ultrasound." The room erupted again. She passed around the little black and white picture. A tiny bean-shaped baby, curled up like a miniature miracle. Michelle burst into tears again. Jim Bob held the picture to his chest. "This is incredible. Just incredible." The siblings marveled over it like it was a treasure. "It looks like Caleb already," someone joked. "Look at that tiny nose, it's real." "It's happening." Josie felt overwhelmed and grateful. This was her family, and now she was bringing a new life into it. A quiet moment with Michelle near the end of the celebration. Michelle pulled Josie aside to the kitchen, away from the noise. "I want you to know," Michelle said softly, "you have nothing to worry about. We're here for you." "Every step," Josie nodded. "I know, Mom. I'm just nervous. And excited. And everything." Michelle held both of Josie's hands. "That's normal. Pregnancy is a journey filled with emotions, especially your first." She brushed a tear from Josie's cheek. "And when you feel overwhelmed, remember that God chose you to be this baby's mother. That is an honor." Josie hugged her mom tightly. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." Jim Bob's advice to Caleb. Outside on the porch, Jim Bob had Caleb trapped, talking father dash to dash father so, son Jim. Bob began fatherhood is a big responsibility. Caleb nodded. I know. I want to be the best I can be. Jim Bob smiled warmly. And you will be. You've already shown so much maturity and strength. You love Josie. You support her. That's all she needs. Caleb looked relieved. Thank you, sir. Jim Bob slapped him on the back. Now, get ready. Babies don't let you sleep much, but they give your heart more joy than you ever thought possible. Both men laughed together. The celebration continues. The rest of the afternoon was filled with music, laughter, dancing children, and conversations about baby names, cravings, and plans. Someone made hot chocolate. Someone else set up a camera for family photos. Jessa was already planning a baby shower. Jeremiah joked that the baby would be born with 10 cousins waiting outside the hospital door. Josie soaked it all in. Every smile, every hug, every blessing. She had never felt so surrounded by love. A quiet drive home. After the long celebration, Josie and Caleb finally got into their car and began driving home. The sun had already set, and the sky was full of stars. Josie leaned her head against the window, feeling emotionally full. You did it, Caleb said softly. And they couldn't be happier. Josie smiled. I feel relieved and grateful. Caleb took her hand. We're starting our own family now. This is the beginning. Josie looked down at her stomach, touching it gently. My baby, she whispered. Tears filled her eyes again, but these were peaceful tears, happy tears. She closed her eyes and let the moment settle deep within her heart. Weeks later, a special gift. 3 weeks after the big reveal, Josie returned to her parents' house to pick up a package Michelle had said was ready for her. When she arrived, Michelle handed her a beautifully wrapped box with a soft pink ribbon. What is this? Josie asked. Open it, Michelle urged. Inside was a hand-sewn baby quilt, pastel yellow, blue, and green, with tiny embroidered butterflies. I started this the day after you told us, Michelle whispered. Just like I made one for you when you were born. Josie clutched the quilt to her chest, overcome with emotion. You've always been my miracle, Michelle said. And now you're carrying another one to the future begins. As the months went on, Josie felt her life shift in a way that was both exciting and grounding. She and Caleb decorated their baby room. She bought tiny socks and onesies. She visited her family often. Michelle attended every checkup possible. Jim Bob bragged about becoming a grandpa again to everyone at church, and the entire Duggar family counted down the days until baby Parker arrived. But no matter how big the family was, no matter how many babies came before this one, Josie's baby held a uniquely powerful story, a symbol of survival, a symbol of faith, a symbol of new beginnings. Final emotional moment. One evening, Josie stood on her porch holding the ultrasound picture under the light of the moon. She remembered her own fragile beginning. She remembered the prayers, the fear, the hope, and now here she was, with a strong heartbeat inside her. A little life knit together with love, her child, her miracle. She pressed the photo to her heart. I promise I'll protect you, she whispered. Just like my parents protected me. She looked up at the stars and smiled. Her future was bright. Her journey had just begun, and the Duggar family was ready to welcome its newest blessing. Jill Duggar's shocking heart attack. A day that changed the Duggar family forever. The morning sun had just begun to wash over the quiet Arkansas countryside when Jill Duggar Dillard stepped out onto her porch, coffee mug in hand, ready to begin another ordinary day. But little did she know, within just a few hours, her world and the world of the entire Duggar family would be turned upside down forever. A calm morning before the storm. For the last several months, Jill had been living a quieter, more peaceful life. After years of tension with some members of the Duggar family, she had finally begun to heal emotionally, reconnecting with a few siblings, spending more time with Derek and their children, and focusing on her health. But despite her efforts, there had been moments, brief, subtle moments, when her body had tried to warn her that something wasn't right. A strange tightness in her chest, a sudden wave of fatigue, a blocked sensation when breathing. Each time, Jill ignored it, brushing it off as stress, exhaustion, or anxiety. But today there would be no ignoring the warning. Jill suddenly collapses at around 10:20 a.m. While preparing her children's school snacks, Jill felt a sharp, stabbing pain shoot through the center of her chest. The world around her blurred. Her arms trembled. Her heartbeat became erratic. Too fast, then too slow. "Mommy, are you okay?" 7-year-old Samuel asked, eyes widening with fear. Jill opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. The pain intensified, spreading to her left shoulder and jaw. She grabbed the edge of the kitchen counter, trying to steady herself, but her legs buckled beneath her. She collapsed onto the floor. Her children screamed. And in the midst of the chaos, little Freddie, only 3 years old, sat beside her, patting her face, whispering in his tiny voice, "Mommy, wake up." Derek's panic. Derek Dillard was working at the courthouse when he received the call. A frantic, breathless voice on the other end. "Derek. It's Israel. Mommy fell. She's not moving. Please come." Derek's heart dropped into his stomach. He didn't even hang up the phone properly. He sprinted to his car, tears blurring his vision, his hands shaking uncontrollably as he dialed 911 while driving far over the speed limit. "Please, my wife, Jill Dillard. She's collapsed at home. Please hurry." Every second felt like a lifetime. The ambulance arrives. When the paramedics burst through the door, the children were huddled around their mother, crying and trembling. Jill was conscious, but slipping in and out, her skin pale, lips turning slightly blued. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" a paramedic asked. Jill's eyes fluttered open for a moment. She gasped for air, her hand pressing against her chest. "Pain, can't breathe." They quickly assessed her condition. Blood pressure dangerously low, heart rhythm irregular, classic signs of an acute cardiac event, possible heart attack. "Move fast." The children watched in horror as their mother was lifted onto a stretcher, oxygen mask placed over her face. "Where's Daddy?" Jill whispered weakly. "He's on the way," the paramedic said. "Stay with us, Jill. Stay awake." Derek arrives and breaks down. Derek pulled into the driveway just as the ambulance doors were closing. He ran, stumbling, toward the vehicle. "Jill. Jill. I'm here," he shouted, voice cracking. Jill's barely focused eyes met his, and she whispered the words that shattered him. "I'm scared." Derek grabbed her hand, kissing it repeatedly. "I'm right here, sweetheart. I'm not leaving you." The paramedics pushed him gently aside. "We need to go, right now." Derek climbed into the ambulance, holding Jill's cold hand as the sirens wailed through the streets. Meanwhile, at the Duggar house back at the main Duggar home, Jim, Bob, and Michelle were preparing lunch when their phone buzzed repeatedly. Michelle glanced down and saw dozens of missed calls from Derek. Her heart dropped. "Jim, Bob, something's wrong." "It's Derek." When she finally answered, Derek's voice was frantic. "Mom, Jill's had a heart attack. She's in critical condition." Michelle's scream echoed through the house, sending shockwaves through the entire Duggar family. Jim, Bob froze, every muscle in his body turning to stone. "She what?" "Derek, is she alive?" "I don't know." Within minutes, siblings poured into the room. Jessa, Joanna, Jana, John David, Josiah, even Jason and James. Confusion turned to terror when they heard the words heart attack. Michelle burst into tears. "My baby girl? Oh God, my Jill." Rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, Jill was wheeled straight into the emergency cardiac unit. Doctors worked rapidly, hooking her to monitors, administering clot-busting medication, preparing for emergency angioplasty. Derek stood outside the door, shaking, barely able to breathe. The children clung to Michelle, who had arrived with Jim, Bob. The tension was thick, suffocating. Every second stretched like hours. The doctor emerges after nearly 45 minutes that felt like an eternity. A doctor finally walked out, wearing a grave expression. "Are you the husband?" Derek nodded, unable to speak. The doctor took a long breath. Jill suffered a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. A major artery was blocked. "We were able to open it, but her condition is still unstable," Michelle gasped, covering her mouth. Jim, Bob stood stiff, eyes red. Derek's legs nearly gave out. "But is she going to survive?" he whispered. The doctor slowly shook his head. "We're not sure yet." The next few hours are critical. Inside Jill's hospital room. When Derek entered the room, Jill lay motionless, hooked up to tubes and wires, her breathing supported by oxygen. He pulled a chair close, took her hand, and began to sob. "Please don't leave me," he whispered. "Please, Jill, the boys need you, I need you." Michelle slowly walked in next, already crying before she even reached her daughter's bedside. "Jilly Muffin," she whispered brokenly, using the childhood nickname she hadn't said in years. She stroked Jill's hair, a flood of memories washing over her. The day Jill was born, her wedding day, the first time she held baby Israel. "I wasn't there when you were hurting," Michelle whispered, tears falling onto Jill's pillow. "But I'm here now. I'm right here. Please fight. Please come back to us." Unexpected family unity for the first time in a long time. The Duggar family, once divided, stood united at Jill's bedside. Jessa cried quietly in the corner. Jana held Jill's hand and whispered prayers. Joanna hugged Derek, apologizing for past misunderstandings. Even Jim Bob, usually composed, broke down as he whispered, "God, please don't take my daughter." It was a rare moment. A family once torn by conflict brought together by fear and love at a sudden crisis. Just when things seemed to stabilize, the heart monitor started to beep rapidly. Jill's heart rate dropped. Her oxygen levels dipped dangerously low. Code blue, a nurse shouted. Doctors and nurses rushed in, pushing the family aside. Her heart stopping, prepared defibrillator. Derek screamed, "No, and no, Jill." Michelle collapsed into Jim Bob's arms. The medical team worked quickly, shocking her heart, administering medication, performing chest compressions. The children cried from the hallway, hearing their mother fighting for her life. Time stood still. Then, a miracle.